2 months into our marriage, my icy wife still wouldn't let me touch her. We lived like roommates. I finally snapped and gathered my courage to tell my wife, let's get divorced. We've been married this long, and you still won't let me touch you. My friends joked that I married a buddy, not a wife. But she snapped, embarrassed and angry, then touched me. How would you know if you don't try? The next second, she threw a box of condoms at my face. I was completely stunned. In an instant, everything flipped. I went from demanding a divorce to being challenged. I stared at the cup on the table, my fingertips taut. My voice hardened. We're getting divorced. We have to. The room fell abruptly silent. The wall clock ticked in the living room. The woman across from me on the sofa raised her head. Her cool, distant eyes settled on me. She was my wife, Qinghan. We'd only been married 2 months. She was as cold as an iceberg and wouldn't let me touch her. We shared a bed but lived separate lives. Other than meals, we sat in silence. I'd had enough. Why? Her voice was calm, but it carried a nearly imperceptible tremor. I scoffed, staring at her long legs. My Adam's apple bobbed. We're not right for each other. 2 months married, and you won't even let me touch you. Do you think I'm invisible? She froze. Something seemed to flicker in her eyes. A moment later, she pressed her lips together. In a cool voice, she said, then touch me. How would you know if you don't try? I froze, thinking she was joking. But the next second, she suddenly hurled the box at me. It smacked straight into my face. I looked down. It was a brand new box of condoms. My head began to roar. Blood rushed to my head. Her eyes were red, tears glistening at their corners. Yet her tone was so defiant it was almost a challenge. Then touch me. Do you dare? I was dumbfounded. Where had her cold detachment gone? Why was she challenging me now? A storm of emotions churned inside me. Part of me was still furious, but she had also left me deeply unsettled. I stared at her, my throat tight. Qinghan, don't play games with me. She removed her glasses and set them on the table. Her long hair spilled over her shoulders. The icy, glamorous professor now looked vulnerable, her poise slightly undone. I'm not joking. If you think we're not right for each other, then prove it. My heart jolted, and my breathing went ragged. Was she forcing my hand? On one side was her icy, aloof demeanor. On the other were those reddened eyes. Suddenly, I realized I never truly understood her. She looked cold as ice, yet she could say something like that. The tension held for several seconds. She bit her lip, turned away, and refused to look at me. If you want a divorce, I won't stop you. But don't put all the blame on me. You're the one saying we're incompatible without even trying. Her voice was low and hoarse with hurt. My chest clenched. This was nothing like the conversation I'd expected. I'd thought she would coldly nod and say, whatever you want. But she didn't. Her eyes had even turned red. I frowned, my thoughts in chaos. Qinghan, what are you doing? She sniffed and pushed the box toward me. Isn't this what you wanted? Then try. My throat was dry. The tension between us was suffocatingly intimate. Yet I didn't move. 2 months into our marriage, for the first time, I felt like an outsider. What was she thinking? This woman was aloof and abstinent, with waist-length hair. Her legs seemed to go on forever. Back in school, she had been untouchable. Now, her students still called her the Ice Queen. Yet she was my wife. I'd registered our marriage and celebrated our wedding. She was my wife in every legal sense. But for 2 months, she had rejected every attempt at closeness or intimacy, as if she were drawing a line between us. I thought she simply didn't care about this marriage. But the tears in her eyes now shattered everything I thought I knew. I opened my mouth, my voice rough. Qinghan, what do you really want? She stared at me, her voice trembling, but resolute. I don't want you to misunderstand me. It's not that I don't want to. It's just. She bit her lip and said no more. My heart twisted painfully. She didn't refuse because she didn't want me. Then why had she been so cold for 2 months? For a moment, I had no answer. The room was so quiet that only our breathing remained. The mood was delicate, intimate, and stifling. I looked down at the box on the table, my fingers trembling slightly. A ridiculous feeling suddenly came over me. I'd gone from asking for a divorce to being pushed to give this marriage a real try. And it had only been one night. My whole life had been turned upside down. I abruptly looked up and locked eyes with her. Qinghan, remember this. You said we should try, so don't regret it. Her body stiffened. Her cheeks flushed, but she said nothing. In that instant, I saw the tangled emotions in her eyes. There was fear, hesitation, and a faint spark of expectation. My heart sank. Staring into her reddened eyes, my chest became a mess. I was the one who had asked for a divorce. So how had she backed me into a corner instead? After saying that, she fell silent. She turned, walked into the bedroom, and shut the door. I sat on the sofa, staring at that box for a full 10 minutes. My head was a mess, and my heart was worse. What was this? I wanted a divorce, yet one sentence from her had set my blood racing. The next morning, I pushed open the bedroom door. She was already dressed and ready to leave. She wore a fitted blouse and a knee-length skirt, her long hair loose over her shoulders. Cool and pristine, She looked too ethereal for this world, but the nude stockings on her legs made my eyes narrow. My throat tightened, though I pretended to stay calm. About last night, I had barely begun when she coldly cut me off. Don't mention it. That one sentence lit my temper. So she could provoke me, then pretend nothing happened. Did she really take me for an idiot? She slung on her bag and moved to leave. I quickly reached out and stopped her. Qinghan, what do you mean by this? She frowned and looked up at me. What do you mean? You challenged me last night, and now one don't mention it makes it disappear. Her gaze flickered. She said coolly, then try. My heart jolted. This woman could drive anyone insane. After saying that, she walked around me and left. I was left alone, emotions surging in my chest. She was deliberately keeping me on edge. I gritted my teeth. A thought rose in my mind. Since she dared to challenge me, then I'd try. That evening, she came home from work. I was waiting in the living room. She pushed open the door and entered. She paused slightly when she saw me. Why aren't the lights on? I said nothing. I only watched her. She looked a little uncomfortable. She set down her bag and took off her coat. The light made the curves beneath her blouse faintly visible. Heat flared in me, and I suddenly stood. I closed in on her, step by step. She stepped back. What are you doing? I gave a cold laugh. Didn't you say we should try? Panic flashed in her eyes as her back hit the wall. But I didn't say now. Then when I pressed, her breathing quickened, and her eyes turned red. But the next second, she suddenly shoved me away and fled into the bedroom. The door slammed shut in my face. I stood frozen, my fists clenched until they cracked. What did she want? She challenged me, then backed away. It was like she was deliberately tempting me, only to cruelly douse the flame. Anger surged through me. I walked to the bedroom door. In a low voice, I said, Qinghan, this is too much. A muffled voice came from inside. I didn't mean to. Then, what do you mean? She didn't answer again. The silence left me agitated. I leaned against the door and took a deep breath. She was truly driving me crazy. On the third night, she suddenly came home after drinking. A faint scent of alcohol clung to her. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes unfocused. Frowning, I helped her inside. Why did you drink so much? She looked up, her eyes hazy with drink. A work dinner, she said with a soft laugh. In a soft, intoxicating voice, she said, didn't you say we should try? I shuddered. She really was drunk. I stared at her. She leaned against the sofa, her legs crossed. Her skirt had ridden up slightly. Her pale skin looked dazzling beneath the lights. My throat tightened, my heartbeat speeding up. Damn it, this woman was going to be the death of me. Gritting my teeth, I stepped forward and leaned close. Qinghan, are you sure? She blinked and softly said, no. I froze. What? Her gaze wandered, but she forcefully pushed me away. No. I'm scared. Her voice was barely audible, yet it went straight to my heart. I stood there completely stunned. Looking into her eyes, I suddenly understood. She wasn't stringing me along. She was truly struggling. It felt as if something struck my heart hard. I stepped back and drew a deep breath. To my surprise, I felt a little sorry for her. I poured her a glass of water. She took it, her hand trembling slightly. Qinghan, I watched her, lowering my voice. What are you so afraid of? She bit her lip without answering. She only lowered her head as tears fell onto the back of her hand. My chest tightened. For the first time, I thought, this woman wasn't some unreachable iceberg. She had only trapped herself inside a shell. I didn't pressure her again. I only reached out and gently pulled her into my arms. Her body stiffened, but she didn't push me away. I said softly, remember this. I'm your husband. You don't have to be afraid. Her shoulders trembled as she leaned against my chest. The room fell quiet. Only our breathing remained. My anger gradually faded. In its place came an indescribable ache and tangled emotions. That night, we went no further. She slept deeply in my arms, but I didn't sleep all night. Staring at the ceiling, a thought rose in my mind. I had to figure this woman out. On one hand, she was so cold she kept everyone at arm's length. On the other, she was so fragile that one sentence could make her cry. I couldn't see through her. But one thing was certain. I couldn't endure this distant, uncertain marriage. The next morning, when she woke, she found herself curled up in my arms and immediately froze. She abruptly sat up, her face flushing. Rubbing my brow, I spoke in a cold voice. Qinghan, we need to talk. She paused, gently pressing her lips together. About what? Our marriage. I put it bluntly. We've been married for 2 months, and you've been cold as ice. Every day, I feel like an outsider. Either we divorce, or we set some ground rules. She stared at me, her eyes flickering. I tossed down a sheet of paper and a pen. Write up a contract. Spell out everything our marriage should include. She paused, then gave a cold laugh. You think marriage is a business deal? At least it would be better than this, I said coldly. The atmosphere instantly turned rigid. After a long silence, she suddenly reached for the pen. Fine. My heart jolted. I hadn't expected her to actually agree. She lowered her head and wrote briskly on the paper. Minutes later, A marriage contract lay before me. I scanned it and nearly laughed in exasperation. Rule 1. We must kiss once a day. Rule 2. At least one date every week. Rule 3. No silent treatment after an argument. It must be resolved that night. Rule 4. Respect each other. Do not dredge up the past. My eyes widened. What the hell was this? She looked unruffled. A contract. Didn't you tell me to write one? I did. What? Do you have a problem with it? For a moment, I was speechless. I had meant to set the rules, but she had turned the tables on me. She'd written it like a couple's rulebook. Are you serious? She nodded calmly. Of course. I gritted my teeth. What about marital duties? For example, when we should be intimate, we should be. Her eyes flickered, but she deliberately kept a cold face. Then add it yourself. I raised a brow as heat rose inside me. You're playing with me. I picked up the pen at once. After her rules, I added another. Rule 5. Marital duties must be fulfilled. When I finished, I tossed aside the pen and stared at her. Sign it. She froze, her face turning slightly red. But after hesitating, she gritted her teeth. She signed her name. The contract was official. Over the next few days, the contract officially took effect. On the first day, as she was leaving that morning, she suddenly stopped and turned to me. We're still short one. I paused. What? She suddenly rose onto her toes. She quickly kissed my cheek. Her lips were soft, her breath sweet. I froze, but she had already turned and left. I stood there, my heart pounding wildly. Well, this contract was getting interesting. That evening, she took me to the grocery store. Rule 2 of the contract. One date every week. I raised a brow. Grocery shopping counts as a date. She answered seriously, of course. I had no words, but as I watched her push the cart, carefully choosing fruit and vegetables, my heart inexplicably softened. This was what a normal married life should be, wasn't it? But just as those small moments of warmth began to move me, she suddenly brought me back down to earth. That night, I moved close to her. I tried to act on Rule 5. The marital duty clause. But she suddenly went rigid. Her eyes darted as she anxiously pushed me away. Anger instantly surged through me. Qinghan, are you playing me? She bit her lip, her eyes reddening. I'm not. I just. Before she could finish, tears welled up. In that instant, my heart jolted painfully. My anger vanished, replaced by deep confusion. What was she so afraid of? Why did she retreat at every crucial moment? I stared at her, my voice low. Qinghan, tell me the truth. She shook her head, refusing to speak. Tears fell drop by drop. I was frustrated, but I couldn't force her. In the end, I could only sigh heavily. I turned and lay down with my back to her. The room sank into a deathly silence. But I knew this marriage had reached its breaking point. Divorce or keep going? I didn't know. I only knew that if I didn't find an answer, sooner or later, I would lose my mind. The next day, I taped the contract to the bedroom wall. I circled Rule 5 and read, Qinghan, I'll give you time, but don't forget that you sign this. She looked at the paper on the wall, her face turning pale. Her fingertips trembled slightly. I could feel her fear, but I knew even more clearly that I had to push her one step further, because only then could our relationship truly break the deadlock. This battle over our marriage had only just begun. The marriage contract hung on the wall. Rule 5, circled in red, was like a thorn, wedged between Qinghan and me. Every time she looked at it, her expression stiffened. Yet even so, she still refused to cross that line. So our awkward days dragged on, until one day, when I left work early to pick her up. She taught at a university, known across campus as its icy goddess. I parked at the campus gate and leaned against my car as I waited. Before long, I saw a crowd of students gathered around someone walking out of the academic building. They were all young, watching with burning eyes. And at the center was Qinghan. She wore a simple blouse and skirt. Her hair was loosely pinned up, and she wore high heels. Cool and restrained, she was like a spotless white blossom. The students were clearly there for her. One male student cautiously offered flowers. Professor Gu, these are for you. She frowned slightly and shook her head. Thank you, but I don't accept gifts from students. Watching from afar, I felt secretly pleased. See, so many people were pursuing her. Yet she was my wife. But just as I was about to approach, a slick-looking man stepped in front of her. Qinghan, you're off work. I'm heading to the parking lot too. Let's go together. He was in his 30s, overweight, with a protruding belly. He was even carrying a box of imported chocolates. Qinghan's face went cold. No need. The man wouldn't let up, trying to force the chocolates into her hands. Oh, don't be so distant. You must be lonely alone. Wouldn't it be nice to have me with you? The students nearby whispered among themselves. My eyes narrowed as anger flared inside me. Who the hell is this guy? I strode forward. Qinghan. The moment I spoke, everyone froze. Qinghan looked up, slightly startled. What are you doing here? I ignored her and walked straight over. I shoved the chocolates back into the man's arms. My wife said she won't take them. That means no. The scene fell instantly silent. The students erupted. Oh my god, Professor Gu is married. The sleazy man's face darkened. Staring at me, he asked coldly, "Who are you?" I smiled and casually put an arm around Gu Qinghan's shoulders. Her husband. Gu Qinghan stiffened slightly, but she didn't push me away. The sleazy man's face turned livid, though he forced a smile. "Qinghan, you're actually married. Why didn't you tell us?" I cut him off coldly. "What's it to you?" A malicious glint flashed in the man's eyes. His lips curled. "So that's it. No wonder. You've been so icy all these years. So, you had a man backing you all along." The students around us burst into an uproar. Fury surged through me, and my gaze turned icy. "What did you say?" The man sneered and lowered his voice. "Kid, let me give you some advice. A woman like Qinghan isn't someone just anyone can handle. Do you think you've married a treasure?" My eyes narrowed, rage churning in my chest. But before I could react, Gu Qinghan suddenly spoke. "Professor Wang, you've crossed the line." Her voice was freezing, her gaze razor-sharp. "Please don't bother me again." The man's face stiffened. With a cold laugh, I held her close and turned away. "You heard her. My wife made herself perfectly clear." As we walked through the crowd, I felt her shoulders tremble faintly. Once we got back to the car, I let her go. I asked coldly, "Who is that man?" She lowered her gaze, her tone flat. "A professor from my department. He's always been a nuisance." I frowned. "A nuisance? That's harassment." She said nothing, which only made me angrier. "Qinghan, what are you thinking? How long has a man like that been harassing you? And you've just put up with it." She pressed her lips together and wouldn't look at me. An oppressive silence filled the car. I slammed my fist against the steering wheel. "Do you think you can carry everything by yourself?" Her body jolted. I stared at her and said through clenched teeth, "Remember this. You're my wife. You're not fighting this battle alone." The car was silent for a long time. Then she softly said, "Thank you." My heart caught in my chest. Her eyes no longer held that distant, rejecting coldness. Instead, they held a faint softness, almost imperceptible. My heart shuddered at that moment. That night, she stood at the bedroom door and suddenly called, "Li Chuan." I looked up and saw the marriage contract in her hands. "Thank you for what happened today. I'll do my best with Rule 5 of the contract." I froze. Then warmth rushed into my chest. She lowered her head, her ears burning red. "Just give me some time." I walked over and cradled the back of her head. I pulled her into my arms. "All right." My voice was hoarse, but resolute. "But remember, Gu Qinghan, you're my wife. If anyone dares touch you, I'll be the first to stop them." Her body trembled slightly. I could feel her defenses crumbling bit by bit. That night, she lowered her head and placed the marriage contract in my hand. Her voice was quiet, but more earnest than ever. "I'll do my best with Rule 5 of the contract." Warmth flooded my chest, and I nearly pulled her into a tighter embrace. But she quickly broke free and turned back into the bedroom. I was left alone, my heart pounding wildly. It took a long time to calm down. Since our marriage, this was the first time she'd relented. Over the next few days, her change was obvious. She no longer kept that cold expression. Sometimes she would hand me a cup of coffee in the morning. When I got home from work, she'd even say, "You must be tired." Her tone was still flat, but I could feel her trying to draw closer. I secretly vowed to seize this chance. A few days later, at 10 that night, she sat at her desk. Her brow was furrowed beneath the lamp. Stacks of exam papers were piled before her. Her red pen flew across the pages. I carried over a cup of hot milk. "Stop grading. Take a break." She looked up, exhaustion in her eyes. "I still have 30 left. I'll sleep after I finish." I sighed and set down the milk. Then I stepped behind her and gently massaged her shoulders. She stiffened slightly, but didn't push me away. A surge of joy rose in me, and my hands became gentler. "Why are you working yourself so hard?" "I can't delay grading my students' papers." Her voice was tired. I couldn't help lowering my head, looking at her slender neck and the strands of hair that fell over it. A familiar urge surged through me. "Gu Qinghan," I said in a low voice. "We're husband and wife, not roommates." Her body trembled. Her pen drew a crooked red line across the paper. I leaned closer, my breath brushing her ear. She abruptly looked up, panic in her eyes. "Li Chuan, you said you'd try." I held her gaze. Her cheeks flushed. She bit her lip, her breathing quickening. After a moment of silence, she suddenly whispered, "Actually, it's not that I don't want to. I'm just scared." I froze, my heart clenching hard. She lowered her eyes, her voice barely audible. Before she broke off halfway through, she stopped, her fingers clenching the pen tightly. My heart tightened as I vaguely guessed why. "Was it your ex-boyfriend?" Her shoulders shook slightly. She didn't deny it. The air seemed to freeze. My throat tightened as I slowly reached out. I took away her pen and turned her toward me. "Qinghan," I looked into her reddened eyes and said softly, "I'm not him. I won't hurt you." At last, her tears fell. One drop after another landed on the exam papers. In that moment, My heart ached unbearably for her. I pulled her into my arms and held her tight. She tried desperately to hold it in, but she still buried her face in my chest and sobbed softly. I don't want to be fooled again. I don't want to be abandoned again. My throat tightened as I said through clenched teeth. Then remember this. From now on, I'm not going anywhere. You're my wife. I'll protect you for the rest of my life. Her shoulders shook as she cried, but slowly, she reached out and held me tightly. Neither of us slept that night. Curled in my arms, she told me so much. She said her ex had used endless sweet words to deceive her, but in the end, he cheated on her. Then he claimed behind her back that she was cold and incapable of love. She nearly fell apart back then. After that, she built a thick shell around herself. She would rather be cold than risk giving anyone another chance. My fist clenched as I listened. I wanted to drag that bastard out and beat him half to death. But I only held her. Again and again, I told myself I would make her believe that marriage wasn't pain. It was where she belonged. By dawn, she had fallen asleep in my arms. Her breathing was steady. Her brow relaxed. It was as though she had finally laid down the burden on her heart. I lowered my head and gently kissed her forehead. Honey, from today on, you can trust me with everything. The next morning, she unusually slept in. Watching her peaceful sleeping face, I felt an unprecedented sense of contentment. This was our true night of breaking through the ice. Not physical closeness, but two hearts coming together. But I knew even more clearly that her shell had only just cracked open. The real test still lay ahead. Morning sunlight streamed through the gap in the curtains. I rubbed my eyes, and the first thing I saw was Qinghan, still asleep and curled in my arms. Her long hair spilled loose around her. She looked as peaceful as a little girl. Her tears from last night seemed to have washed away all her defenses. My heart softened, and I couldn't help leaning down. I gently kissed her forehead. She frowned faintly, but didn't wake up. She only instinctively nestled closer into my arms. I smiled. For the first time, deep inside, I felt a grounded sense of contentment. Before I left for work, she was unbelievably waiting for me in the kitchen. 2 slices of toast and a glass of milk sat on the table. She awkwardly looked away. I just threw it together. Don't judge. I paused for 2 seconds, then teased her deliberately. Is this my professor wife's way of showing love? Her face reddened, and she raised a hand to hit me. Are you eating or not? I caught her hand. Grinning, I said, Of course I'm eating. I'll eat this every day from now on. She shook off my hand, then turned back to the bedroom, though the tips of her ears were bright red. A few days later, I left work early on purpose. I drove to pick her up at school just as her students were getting out. She wore a business suit, her long hair pinned up, high heels on, radiating authority. A group of students spotted us from afar and couldn't help whispering, Wow. Professor Gu's husband came to pick her up. That's so sweet. I want a boyfriend like that too. I stood openly at the school gate, waiting for her. When she saw me, she froze, and her face instantly turned cold. What are you doing here? Picking up my wife after work, I said solemnly. Don't fool around. This is a school. Her cold voice couldn't hide the panic in her eyes. The students watched us secretly, but I walked over and took her hand. Professor Gu is so beautiful. If I didn't get here early, what if someone stole her away? Her face turned scarlet as she tried to shake off my hand. But with all those students watching closely, she could only keep a straight face. Back in the car, she glared at me. Did you do that on purpose? I played dumb. I was openly picking up my wife. What's wrong with that? Too annoyed to speak, she turned to the window, but I clearly saw the corner of her mouth lift despite herself. Gradually, her changes became more obvious. At dinner, she would serve food onto my plate without being asked. Sometimes, when I got home late from work, she'd save me dinner and even remind me to heat it up first. That day, after she finished grading, she suddenly handed me a piece of candy. It's to wake you up. I froze, staring at the candy in my hand with a foolish grin. Feigning indifference, she said, What? Don't want it. Give it back, then. I immediately unwrapped it and popped it into my mouth. Then I deliberately mumbled, So sweet. She rolled her eyes at me, her ears turning red again. But she still had a knot in her heart. That night, I had just finished showering. I came out wearing only a towel. Just then, she came out of the study. The moment our eyes met, she froze. Her gaze lingered on me for half a second. Then her face went crimson. Can't you get dressed before coming out? I raised an eyebrow. We're married. Even married couples need boundaries. With that, she slammed the bedroom door. I stared at the closed door, torn between laughter and tears. See, though we'd broken the ice, truly getting close to her would take time. A few days later, the school held an academic gala. I attended with her. For the first time, I saw her presence in academic circles. The moment she spoke, she was calm and composed. She left several senior professors speechless. Every eye in the room was fixed on her. Pride swelled in my heart. I couldn't help shouting through the crowd, That's my wife. All I got was a fierce eye roll from her. When we got home, she took off her heels, then leaned against the sofa, exhausted. I walked over and began massaging her feet. Startled, she jerked away. What are you doing? Relax, Professor. You've worked too hard today. I held her foot so she couldn't pull away, and gently kneaded it. She bit her lip. Her face flushed, but she didn't resist again. Qinghan, I suddenly called softly. Don't be afraid of me. She froze, her eyes flickering. After a silent moment, she softly murmured, My heart shook. That one reply was more moving than any promise. But just as our relationship was warming, an unwelcome visitor appeared. The day I went to pick her up from school, I had just reached the parking lot when I saw a sharply dressed man blocking her path. Qinghan, long time no see. He smiled confidently, with a familiar possessiveness in his eyes. Qinghan's face instantly turned cold. I have nothing to say to you. A sense of dread rose in my chest. It seemed the real test had arrived. Qinghan, long time no see. The man spoke calmly, but with a smug intimacy. I narrowed my eyes and studied him. He was in his early 30s, wearing a tailored suit. His hair was immaculate, and he carried a document folder. He had a somewhat aloof air about him, but that overly familiar smile made my skin crawl. Qinghan clearly didn't want to engage. She said coldly, I have nothing to say to you. Please move. But the man wouldn't let up and even blocked her way. Qinghan, are you really going to treat me like this? What we had back then? Can you really forget it just like that? My heart jolted. So he really was Qinghan's ex-boyfriend. Qinghan's face was icy. Wei, don't flatter yourself. I told you long ago that we're over. Wei. I remembered the name. I stepped forward and shielded Qinghan behind me. With a sharp gaze, I said, sorry. She's my wife now. He paused in surprise. Then he sneered. You're Chuan. That's right. I met his gaze. Just an ordinary working man. How many zeros are in your bank account? What kind of junk car did you bring to pick her up in? He looked me up and down, his tone dripping with mockery. Qinghan, do you really want to spend your life with a man like this? Is he worthy of you? Qinghan's face went pale, and she tried to speak. But I spoke first. Whether I'm worthy isn't for you to decide, I said coldly. I took Qinghan's hand. Our palms locked tight. If my wife chooses me, then I'm worthy. The moment I finished, Qinghan visibly trembled. She looked at me with complicated emotions in her eyes. Wei sneered. She chooses you. Qinghan, do you really mean that? He stepped closer, staring hard at her. Why did you agree to marry him back then? Was it to spite me, or to get away from me? Qinghan turned pale under his questions, pressing her lips together in silence. My heart tightened as I was about to respond. But Wei seized the chance and said coldly, Qinghan, you can't fool yourself. You can't let me go. How long have you even been married to him? Only 2 months. Don't tell me. You haven't even done what married couples do. His words stabbed Qinghan's heart like a knife. Her breath caught, and her cheeks instantly flushed. Rage exploded in my chest. I lunged forward and grabbed him by the collar. My eyes were fierce. Who the hell do you think you are? How dare you spew that nonsense here? Wei remained unruffled. That smile remained on his lips. Why so worked up? Did I hit a sore spot? Let me tell you. Qinghan is mine. She hasn't dated anyone these past years because she still has feelings for me. You're nothing but a replacement. I couldn't hold back. I punched him square in the face. Wei staggered back, clutching his face. His eyes darkened. You dare hit me? That was just one punch. Say one more word, and I'll cripple you. I roared through clenched teeth. People nearby had begun watching and whispering. Qinghan's face was deathly pale. She hurriedly grabbed me. Stop it. This is the school parking lot. Breathing hard, I glared at Wei. He gave a cold laugh, wiping the blood from his mouth. Qinghan, do you really think he can give you the life you want? If you stay with him, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. When you come to your senses, I'll be here. With that, he turned and left. The air crackled with tension. When I turned back, complex emotions flickered in Qinghan's eyes. She wanted to explain, but finally only said softly, let's go home. The atmosphere in the car was heavy. I gripped the steering wheel tightly. Wei's words echoed in my mind. You two haven't even done what married couples do. I didn't dare look at her expression, afraid I'd see hesitation in her eyes. Finally, I asked in a low voice, was he really your ex-boyfriend? She was silent for 2 seconds, then softly said, Why did you break up? Her breath caught. Her eyes darted away, unwilling to talk. My heart tightened, my fists clenched, my knuckles cracking. What he said just now. Don't take it to heart. I won't let anyone humiliate you like that. She froze for a moment and looked up at me. A flicker of emotion crossed her eyes. I gritted my teeth and continued. Remember this. You're my wife. I'll protect you for life. No one can hurt you. A brief silence filled the car. After a long while, she asked softly, you don't regret it? Regret my ass? I scoffed. Even if you have a past, it's in the past. Now, you're mine. Her lips trembled slightly. Her eyes reddened as she fought back tears. I reached over and held her hand tightly. She hesitated, but didn't pull away. Back home, she sat silently on the sofa for a long time. I poured her some water. Don't dwell on it. He's nothing but a gutter rat. She glanced at me. You don't understand. I understand. I cut in. You're afraid he'll disrupt your life. But don't worry. With me here, he can't do a thing. Her eyes reddened. Thank you, she whispered. My chest ached as I pulled her into my arms. Silly girl. Why are you thanking me? Her body stiffened, but she didn't push me away. In that moment, I understood. Hu Wei's appearance hadn't shaken our relationship. It had only brought us closer. And this was only the beginning. After that night, something was clearly wrong with Qinghan. By day, she still wore the face of an aloof, elegant professor, confident and composed at the lectern. But at home, she seemed lost, quiet, and withdrawn. Seeing it made my heart tighten. Hu Wei's return wasn't merely dredging up the past. It was like tearing open an old wound. But she wouldn't say a word. A few days later, I went to pick her up from school early. I found her talking to a female teacher in her office. I didn't interrupt. I waited outside. Then I overheard the teacher sigh. Qinghan, you really shouldn't go soft on him. That scumbag Hu Wei has the nerve to come back and harass you. Qinghan kept her voice low. I didn't go soft. I just don't want him ruining my life again. He's hurt you badly enough already. The teacher was indignant for her. If not for him, would you still be so traumatized around men? My heart jolted. So that was the truth. I remained silent the whole drive home. Qinghan noticed. She asked softly, "Why are you so quiet today?" I glanced at her. Then I asked directly, "What exactly did he do back then?" She was clearly stunned. Her fingers clenched on her knee. For a long time, she didn't answer. Not until the car stopped outside our building did she take a deep breath. Her voice was barely audible. Do you really want to know? Yes. I nodded, my gaze unwavering. She lowered her eyes, as if she'd held it in for years. He cheated on me. Those few words struck my heart like a sledgehammer. Qinghan forced a smile. It was bitter. Back then, I trusted him like an idiot. I even planned to marry him, but he was tangled up with my best friend. Then he blamed me for being cold. He said I wasn't feminine enough, that I wasn't fit to be a proper wife. I felt the blood rush to my head. What happened next? My voice tightened. Her eyes brimmed with tears. Her fingers dug into the seat. Later, he even said, right in front of me, a woman like me could only play the lofty professor at a lectern and would be useless in bed. Her voice trembled more and more. It was like an old wound had been ripped open. At last, tears slid down her face. A sharp pain tore through my chest. No wonder she avoided intimacy at all cost. No wonder she hadn't let me touch her in 2 months of marriage. She'd been humiliated like that. I said nothing. I just held her tightly. At first, she struggled, but in the end, she couldn't hold it in. She curled up in my arms. Her shoulders shook as she sobbed. I whispered in her ear, "Don't be afraid. Qinghan, everything he said was bullshit. He has no right to judge you. To me, you're wonderful in every way. You're the best woman in the world." She cried even harder. Her voice choked. You don't understand that kind of humiliation. It clings to me like a nightmare. I clenched my fists. I swore I'd help her escape this shadow. A few days later, I deliberately planned a short trip. I said work had worn us out and we needed a change of scenery. Really, I wanted her to let go of what haunted her. We wandered through a night market in a mountain town. For once, she reached for my hand and laced her fingers with mine. In that moment, I saw tenderness in her eyes. I understood she did want to be close to me. She had simply been trapped by her past. That night, a sudden downpour began. Rain hammered outside the inn window. The power went out, plunging the room into darkness. I lit a candle. Then I found her curled in the bed's corner, pale-faced. "Qinghan, are you afraid of the dark?" I asked softly. She didn't answer, only pressed her lips together as her eyes flickered. I walked over and sat beside her. I put an arm around her shoulders. "Don't be afraid. I'm here." She trembled and looked up at me. Her eyes were full of tears. Her voice caught. "Chuan, if one day, what if I truly can't let it go? Will you despise me?" My heart tightened. "No," I said firmly. "Listen to me. I will never despise you. Even if you can never move past it, I'll stay with you for life." She froze, tears swimming in her eyes. The next second, she threw herself into my arms. "Why are you so good to me?" she choked out. My throat tightened. "Because you're my wife," I said quietly. "Because I love you." The air instantly froze. She shuddered and looked up at me. Tears slid down her cheeks. Then she kissed me first. She kissed me through her tears, desperate with longing, and the courage of someone finally lowering her guard. That night, rain poured outside. But inside, the fiercest fire burned. At last, she gave herself completely to me. Amid tears and trembling, she whispered, "If I'd known you were this good to me, I wouldn't have wasted 2 months." I held her tightly with one thought in my heart. At that moment, I had finally redeemed her, and she was completely mine. After that night, my relationship with Qinghan went from an iceberg straight into flames. When I woke the next morning, she was nestled in my arms. Her long hair lay loose, her skin fair as snow. She no longer looked like an icy professor. She looked like a woman who had finally found someone to lean on. I couldn't help smiling as I gently stroked her cheek. She sleepily opened her eyes. The instant she saw me, the tips of her ears turned red. "What are you looking at?" she asked softly. I grinned. "I'm looking at the most beautiful wife in the world." She huffed at me and rolled over, turning her back to me. But she couldn't hide the smile at her lips. From that day on, we finally became a real married couple. In the mornings, she rose before me. She'd be busy in the kitchen. When I came downstairs, I'd see her in a house dress, wearing an apron and quietly frying eggs. I'd wrap my arms around her waist and lean close to her ear. "My professor wife is quite the homemaker," she'd push at me. "The cooking fumes are strong. Don't cling to me," she complained, but never pulled free. At breakfast, she made me a fried egg. She even added an extra slice of ham for me. I teased, "Is this an extra serving of love?" She glared at me. "Are you eating it? If not, I'll feed it to the dog." I immediately lowered my head and wolfed it down. "Anything my wife makes is delicious." She couldn't stop the corner of her mouth from lifting. But even sweet domestic life had little frictions. One time, I went to pick her up after work. I found several male students gathered around her. They eagerly carried her books for her. My eyelid twitched, and I immediately walked over. I took all the books from them. With one arm around her shoulders, I said, "I've got this." The students froze. "Professor Gu, who is this?" I smiled openly. "Her husband." The students gaped. "Wow, Professor Gu is married." Disappointment was obvious in their eyes. I was secretly thrilled. I deliberately ruffled her hair affectionately before them. Her face stayed cold, but once home, she gave me a hard pinch. "Why were you acting up in front of my students?" I winced. I was openly staking my claim. I have to keep people from setting their sights on my wife. She rolled her eyes at me, but she didn't argue further, though her ears were bright red. The best time was when she got jealous. A new female colleague had joined my company. She was quite lively. After working late one day, she deliberately walked me to the elevator. But when I stepped out of the elevator, I ran into Qinghan, who was waiting for me. The colleague smiled. "Mr. Sun, I'll be counting on your guidance next time we work together." Qinghan's face went cold. She turned away without a word. When we got home, she did not even take off her shoes. She walked to the living room sofa and said coldly, "You enjoyed that?" I froze. "Huh? Enjoyed what?" She glared at me. She was smiling so brightly. "And you were having such a good time talking to her. Is that your type?" I nearly burst out laughing. "Honey, are you jealous?" She froze, and her ears instantly turned scarlet. Then she turned to leave. I pulled her straight into my arms. I grinned wickedly. "So even Professor Gu gets jealous?" "Let go," she protested, struggling. I held on and whispered in her ear, "Don't worry. You're the only woman in my eyes." Her body went rigid, and her breathing quickened. After a while, she muttered, "Smooth talker." But I could feel her melt against me. Our days grew sweeter and sweeter. Sometimes we'd shop at the supermarket together. She would walk ahead with a frosty expression, but my favorite snacks would always mysteriously appear in the cart. Whenever I noticed, I'd lean close and say, "Honey, are you secretly looking after me?" Her face would redden as she said sternly, "Don't flatter yourself." Yet the snacks were always still there at checkout. At night, we'd cook together. She chopped vegetables while I cooked, the kitchen steaming with warmth. I'd take the chance to hug her from behind, reaching around to guide her hand on the knife. She jolted. "What are you doing? Be careful. You'll cut yourself." I smiled. Couples work more efficiently together. She called me childish, but we worked in perfect sync and made a whole table of dishes. She picked up some food for me. "Try this." I took a bite and put on an act. A little salty." She glared. "Then don't eat it." I quickly smiled to make it up to her. "I like it. A little saltier goes better with rice." Only then was she satisfied. She proudly lifted her chin. "Then eat more." Sweet moments always gave the neighbors something to gossip about. One night, we got a little too carried away at home. The next day, as we headed out, the woman next door gave me a knowing look. She even cleared her throat. "You young people should be careful. The soundproofing between floors is poor." Qinghan's face flushed all the way to her neck. The moment we got home, she chased me around, hitting me. "This is all your fault." Laughing, I darted around the house. "You were the one who was too loud." She lunged to cover my mouth. "Say another word and I'll kill you." I pinned her onto the sofa in one swift move. With a wicked grin, I said, "Bring it on. I'm game." Every little moment in our life together gradually helped her let down all her defenses. That once distant, icy professor was now in front of me. She could be sweet, get angry, and be jealous. She could even smile like a little girl. I knew she had finally given me her heart, and I would do everything I could to cherish and protect her, because she was the woman I had chosen for life. Our sweet days flew by. I thought we would stay this peaceful forever, until that man appeared again. On Friday afternoon, I went to pick Qinghan up from work. The moment I reached the school gate, I sensed something was wrong. Several students stood together, whispering over their phones. Is this for real? Professor Gu's love life was that melodramatic. Look at this post. It says she was dumped and even kept by a man. No way. Professor Gu is so reserved. My heart sank as I hurried onto campus. On the notice board outside the academic building, someone had secretly posted printouts of anonymous exposed screenshots. They included several blurry candid photos, along with descriptions that twisted the facts. The words were vicious, nearly putting Qinghan in the public pillory. And there she stood before the crowd, her face icy, her eyes rimmed red. Rage flared inside me. Who did this? I roared. I marched over and tore the papers down. The students jumped in fright and quickly scattered. Qinghan tried to stop me. Don't. I pulled her protectively into my arms. My voice was cold. Honey, as long as I'm here, no one will lay a finger on you. But it was not that simple. That evening, we had barely arrived home when her phone began ringing nonstop. An anonymous post had appeared online with a glaring headline. Female professor at a certain university has a chaotic private life. Marriage in question. When we opened it, the details seemed disturbingly convincing. It even brought up the fact that after we married, we had not slept together for 2 months. Someone was clearly digging up her private life on purpose, trying to destroy her completely. Her face went deathly pale as trembling fingers scrolled through the screen. I immediately snatched the phone away and said coldly, "Stop reading." "But the students will see it. The school administrators will see it too," she said, her voice shaking. I held her hand tightly. "Trust me, it's all lies. I won't let you face this alone." She stared at me, her eyes full of helplessness. My heart ached. The next day, I found the person behind it all. It was her ex-boyfriend, that doctor. Somehow, he had learned the details of our marriage, using it to magnify the situation and spread rumors. I met him at a cafe. He still had that same arrogant, superior air. "Chuan, do you deserve Qinghan? She's a professor. You're just an ordinary man. Your marriage is a joke to begin with. End it now. Qinghan and I are a far better match." I sneered. "You think you deserve her? I know better than anyone how you treated her back then." His expression changed, then turned cruel. "Even so, the school and society won't easily forgive a woman with a stain on her reputation. Don't worry. Even if she won't be with me, I'll still ruin her." My fist clenched tightly. I nearly punched him. But in the end, I held back. I knew violence would accomplish nothing. What I had to do was crush his scheme completely. A few days later, the school held an emergency meeting. Some teachers and student representatives demanded an investigation into Qinghan's ethics as a teacher. The weight of public opinion left her barely able to breathe. I took her hand and whispered, "Leave it to me." Under everyone's gaze, I stepped forward, my voice firm and strong. "My name is Chuan. I am Qinghan's husband. Those rumors are all lies. She is a dedicated teacher and an honorable, upright woman. Her only mistake was once being blind enough to meet someone she never should have. But she did nothing wrong, and she does not deserve to be slandered. I declare here that she is my one and only wife. That will never change for as long as I live." The room erupted in an uproar. Qinghan stood frozen, her eyes filling with tears. The school did not issue a decision immediately after the meeting, but public opinion had clearly shifted. Many students took Qinghan's side, leaving messages of support online. "Professor Gu is the most responsible professor we've ever had. She could never be that kind of person. The person spreading lies is disgusting." The pressure gradually eased, and when she looked at me, for the first time, her eyes held complete trust and dependence. That night, she held me close, her voice choked with tears. "Chuan, why are you willing to do so much for me?" I stroked her hair and replied softly, "Because you're my wife. Protecting you is my duty." Her tears broke free as she sobbed and pressed a deep kiss to my lips. A few days later, her ex-boyfriend's identity and actions were exposed. Public opinion turned against him, and his reputation was destroyed. The storm finally passed. We sat together on the balcony. She leaned on my shoulder and softly said, "Chuan." I almost thought I was going to lose everything. I squeezed her hand. "You will never lose me." She was silent for a while, then looked up at me earnestly. "Then, could we have a proper wedding ceremony?" I froze, then laughed. I held her close. "Yes, I want the whole world to know that you are Chuan's wife." The night was gentle as she smiled through tears in my arms. I knew this was our true beginning.